Begin the current Daf in Mesech Sotah Daf Yud Beis. We begin on the bottom of Yud Alpha Beis, 3 lines up at the bottom of the Yomid, where the Gemara continues a more of a Gadic teaching, how to define some biblical personalities, because we had mentioned the schar, because we're in the middle of these Gemaras are discussing regarding what happened in Mitzrayim, regarding the element that we discussed of Midah Keneged Midah, because we were discussing different personalities that got Midah Keneged Midah, because really it's related to the concept of the Sotah, that what she does, she gets Midah Keneged Midah. So in that conversation said that the Miyaldos, Ha'ivrios, the Jewish midwives, that they got rewarded, they got Batei Kahuna, Batei Malchus. Batei Kahuna Leviah was from Yocheved, Aaron and Moshe, and Batei Malchus was from Miriam, because David came from Miriam. Where do you see David came from Miriam? So the Gemara brought a pasuk in Daf Yomi Aleph, Thomas Azuva, v'yikach loy kolev es Ephras, v'tolei es Chur, and as we're going to explain, that's a reference to Miriam, and it says v'David ben Ish Ephrati v'goymer. So you see that David was from Ephras, which Ephras and Azuva refers to Miriam, and the Gemara is going to continue discussing who exactly Kalev was related to and who Miriam was in relationship to her husband Kalev. Today's Daf. Some discussion in today's Daf is after we finish up just explaining that Kalev and Miriam part. Then we continue with about Parah's decree to eliminate the Jewish savior, very appropriate now for Erev Pesach. The birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, Yocheved's attempts to save him. The rescue of Moshe Rabbeinu by Basia, the daughter of Parah, and some other related things to the Avodah Kasha that the Yidden had in Mitzrayim. So we begin on the current Daf Yud Alpha Beis, 3 lines up at the bottom of the Yabba. The Gemara quotes a pasuk regarding Miriam. It's a pasuk in Divrei Hayam. It says, "V'kolev ben Chetzrain, hayled es Azuva isha." He gave birth to Azuva, a woman. Ves Yiriyos, ve'ele benan. These are her sons. Yashar v'Sheve v'Arden. So the Gemara wonders, Kalev was ben Chetzron? Well, we all know the pasuk in the Torah that says Kalev ben Yefunahu. He was the son of Yefunah. So the Gemara answers that truth is he was ben Chetzron. Why was it called ben Yefunah? As many times as the Gemara tells us, it's based on the person's actions. Ben Shepana Matzas Maraglim is the son that turned away from the counsel of the spies. That's why he's called Yefunah, but really his father's name was Chetzron. So the Gemara says, but Vakati ben Kenazu. What do you mean? He wasn't the son of not Yefunah, not Chetzron. He was the son of Kenaz, because the Chesed says the pasuk can say V'shavtim b'Yilkada Snil ben Kenaz, and it was captured by Snil ben Kenaz, Achi Kalev, the brother of Kalev. So if his brother was the son of Kenaz, then he's also. So Amar Rabbi says no, it's not true. Cholgai, he was the stepson, the Kenaz Hava. That was who Kalev was. So Asniel was his maternal brother. They had the same mother, but had different fathers, and therefore, his brother was the son of Kenaz, but he wasn't. He was the son of Chetzron. And the Gemara continues top of Yud and Aleph, Dekanami. A precise reading indicates this the Chesed, because it says in Sefer Yeshua that it talks about Kalev ben Yefunah HaKenizi. As Rashi explains, it doesn't say ben Kenaz like Basniel. It calls him the Kenizi, because it's from those family members, and he grew up in the family of Kenaz, so that's what's called HaKenizi. But that's not really his last name, Shema Minah, so that's where we could infer that he was just the stepson, but not really his son. Now, the pasuk that we mentioned says that Kalev ben Chetzron hoyled es Azuva Isha. So the Gemara tells us that this Isha, his wife, Azuva Zu Miriam, and that was what we were mentioning before, but Thomas Azuva, that was the whole reference that we said that she was called Ephras, and that David was ben Ish Ephrati. That's what the Gemara is proving, that Miriam had in her descendants the Batei Malucha, that of David HaMelech. Because Azuva Zu Miriam. Now, Azuva, why was she called Azuva? Because Shakol Azvua Mitchilasa, everyone forsook Miriam in the beginning. Because as Rashi tells us, in the beginning she was very sick, as the Gemara actually as the pasuk calls her Yiriyos, and later on they called her Chala, and Azuva is because all the young men refused, they left her from marrying her. So that's why she was called Azuva. Now, what does it mean, Hoylid? What do you mean, V'aloi Minsiv Havanasiv Lo? What do you mean, he married her? Like it says, as we brought in the end of the previous daf, Tamas Azuva, V'yikach Loi, V'goymer. So obviously we see that it was his wife. So why are we saying that he gave birth to her? So Rabbi Yechanan, this is a very important klal. Whoever marries a woman for the sake of heaven, like over here where she was an ill woman, and he married her l'shem shemayim, where he checked out her brothers, Aaron and Moshe, and he saw that they were righteous. And we know, as the Gemara tells him, most of the sons are similar to the mother's brother, to the uncles. So the pasuk is as if he gave birth to her. So it's saying Vatailid, he gave birth to his wife. It's as if he gave birth to her because he married her for totally righteous reasons. Now, one of the other names that it says over there, it says that he called ben Chetzon Hoylid des Azuba Isha, which really he married Azuba as a woman, and it says Ves Yiriyos. What do you mean Es Yiriyos? It sounds like I said another one, but this is another reference to Miriam. Her face was similar to curtains, meaning, like Rashi says, without any red complexion, because of her sickness, she was very pale and very yellowish. And again, this was another reference why Miriam was ill and forsaken, and again, he married her l'shem shemayim. When it says ve'elu b'neha, and these are her sons, I'll take her b'neha, don't read her sons, elu boineha, rather her builders. Meaning these are the names of her husband who built her and made her more built than other women by marrying her and with having children. What does that mean? So all these names, they're not names of sons. They're the names of Kalev. Yesher, sheyisher es atzmoi, that he straightened himself out not to stray and to be misled by the mistake of the Meraglim. Shoivav, sheshiv es yitzray, or as Rashi's gear says, sheshiv es atzmoi, that he went and he left from the council. Like we have a pasuk habasa sheveva, meaning it's someone that goes out and rebels. So he rebelled, and from the council of the Meraglim. So he's subdued or rebelled against his inclination. The Erdain, another name, means Shadades Yitzray, which he also that he subjugated his inclination, where he from being seduced to err with them. Vigadami, there are those that say that actually Erdain is for a different reason. I'll show you Panel Damon Leverid, because he made his wife's face become similar to a rose. Again, because he took care of her and he made her healthy, he made her stronger than all the other women. And there's a pasuk in Daf Yomi Aleph that says, Ul Ashchor, who is Avi Tekaya, the father of Tekaya, Hayushtei Nashim, he had two wives. Chela Menara, which the Gemara again here also tells us, and this is many psukim that we have in Tanakh, that the psukim, the simple translation is not exactly, the names are actually much more complex. They refer to personalities that is not so clear. Eshcher is a Kalev. Why was it called Eshcher? Because his face became black with all his fasting, because he accepted many fasts that he should be saved from the Atzas HaMeraglim. Avi, it means Shenasa Lo Ka'av, that he became for his wife like a father, where he was so busy with different medicines and different foods that are necessary for a sick person. And Tekaya, so although it says Avi Tekaya, it doesn't mean the father of Tekaya. Tekaya means Shetokas Liber L'Avashem B'Shamayim, that he pushed his heart into his father in heaven, meaning, again, not to go into the Atzas Meraglim. And it says in the pasuk, Hashtei Nashim, he had two wives. What does that mean? It means Nasa Miriam Kishtei Nashim. Miriam became like two women. Chala v'nara. That was the name of the two wives. Says the Gemara, Lo Chala v'nara Havi. It's not that these are two wives or two names, Chala v'nara. Ela b'tchila Chala. Rather, in the beginning, she was sick. Well, the B'sayif Nara, at the end, she was healed from her sickness, and she went back to have the form of a face of a young girl. That was all in the merit of this great husband that she had, Kalev. Then it says, Uvinei Chela, and the sons of Chela, which, as Rashi translates, it means Ubinyone Chela, meaning that she was built and healed. That was as she became as praiseworthy to become Tzeres, V'tzoyhar, Ve'esnan. What are these three names referring to? Tzeres, meaning again, she became so beautiful. Again, the husband nursed her back to health. So Tzeres means she became a rival for her friends. Everyone was jealous about how beautiful she became. The ultimate makeover. Tzoyhar, her face was similar to the afternoon, the sunny afternoon. Esnan means whoever saw her, Meilich Esnan le'ishtay. An esnan is a term when you give a gift to a zayna for her services, you bring her an esnan. So every man was so desiring to laying with a woman that when they would see Miriam, they would come and bring an esnan to their wife to court her so that they could be intimate. Again, this is because of how beautiful Miriam became, because her husband, who married her l'shem shemayim, made her back healthy again. Now we go back to the primary content from the previous daf, going back to the Shibud in Mitzrayim. So there's a pasuk that says, "V'itzav Paro l'chol amay." Paro commanded to his whole nation, as the pasuk says, saying every son that's born should be thrown into the Ya'ar. So what do you mean l'chol amay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, means that af al amay gazar, that he actually made the decree also on his people, which Rashi brings from Medrash Tanchuma, Reb Tanchuma Darshan, that the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, so the astrologers said, today the savior of the Jewish people is born. And we don't know if he's Egyptian or if he's Jew, which he really was somewhere in between. So he went, he gathered all his people, and he requested for them, every baby born that day should be thrown into the river, and he made a decree even on his people. As the Gemara tells us, Vam Risa Reb Chanin says, Sholosh Gezeres Gaza. He made 3 decrees. But Chil in the beginning, that he says, as the pasuk quotes, in Benhu, if he's a boy, Vamit Noise, you should kill him. Which Rashi tells us he didn't make any guards for this. He relied on the Jewish midwives. But then the Ger says, Va'achikach, and then afterwards, it says in the pasuk, Kol ha-ben ha-yiloid, any son that's born, ha-ya'oret ha-shlichu, should be thrown into the river, meaning that he made that there were officers in charge to make sure that this should happen. And then at the end, af al amagaza. Then even on his people, he decreed, as we just explained before. Now, once that day passed, and the astrologers still saw that the Savior was not harmed, so they made a gezerah until the day where Moshe Rabbeinu was actually thrown into the river. Now the pasuk says, "Va'yelech ish mi beis Levi." It says that a man from the house of Levi went and he took for himself as Bas Levi. And that pasuk is very precious to me because that's on my wedding invitation. Because I was a Levi and my wife was also a Bas Levi. So, and it was that week's parsha. So it says that Ish, the Beis Levi, went and took his Bas Levi. Says the Gemara Lehechen Halach. So where did Amram, who is Ish Beis Levi, where did he go? So Rabbi Yehuda Bar Zvin, he says Shahalach Batzaz Bite. He took the counsel of his daughter. What does this mean? So the Gemara gives us the backstory. Tanu Lenda Braisa Amram Gadla Derhaya. He was the greatest one of the generation. Everyone listened to what he said. Now, Kiman Sharash Parasha, once he saw that the wicked power, he said, Kala ben every baby that's going to be born is going to be thrown into the river. It says, we're toiling in vain. So he got up and he divorced his wife. So the Galadar does that. So that's it. It went viral. And that's it. Everyone went and divorced their wives too. Amrullah Bita, his daughter, Miriam said to him, Abba, Tati, your decree is more harmful than that of Paris. Pari only decreed on the males and the boys. And you're making a decree on the boys and the girls that, of course, if you're not married, you're not going to be able to have any babies, not boys, not girls. Now, moreover, Pari only made a decree on this world, meaning babies are born and then they die. But then they go back and they live in the world to come, which is obviously a nechama for anyone who's had nebuch, a type of a situation when the baby doesn't make it. It's not for in vain, because this is, they come to the world and then the neshama had a vessel and then they're able to have oil maba. But you are for this world and for the next world, because since they're not being born, they don't come to the next world. So it's a huge thing. Moreover, para Rasha, the wicked power, is Safik Miskayim is Gezerah. So Safik ain't Miskayim is a Rasha makes a Gezerah. Maybe it's going to be fulfilled, maybe it's not going to be fulfilled. Atud Sadik, interesting what she told him, that you're a righteous person. But for sure your Gezerah is going to happen. Because says the Pasuk in Eve, V'tigzar Omer, and you say a decree, V'yokum loch, and it's going to stand for you, because the Tzaddik says, and Hashem is Mekayim. So Amad v'hichzer as Ishtay. So he got up and he took his wife back. Amdu Kulan, then everyone got up, and also took their wives back. So that's what it says, Vayelech ish beis Levi, v'ikach bas Levi. Maybe it's like a good pasuk. Maybe it's not only that I got married, bring other people that get married. But it's like he went and he listened to his daughter and he followed, and he got married again to his wife. You always maybe renew your vows. So the question the Gemara says, V'yikach, what does it mean that he took? Based on what you're telling me, it shouldn't say that he took his Bas Levi. It should say he took her back. So Rabbi Yehuda Bas Zavina, he says, She'asad, and the Ger says, La Mais Lekuchen, that he made for her an action of how when you take a woman to get married, meaning Hashiva Ba'piryon, he put her on the collars have this big chair that they sit on. The Aaron and Miriam and Aaron and Miriam were dancing in front of her. And this ministering angels were saying, the mother of the sons are happy because her kids are dancing in front of her when she's getting remarried to her husband. Now what's interesting, he says the Gemara, it says, Vayelech Ishmei Beis Levi v'yikach es Bas Levi. And he took the daughter of Levi, Yocheved. Now the problem is, Efshe Bas Meya B'Shleishim Shana, is it possible you have a woman that's 130 years old? As Rashi explains, the Gemara is going to tell us that she was born when they were coming down to Egypt. And the Jews were there for 210 years. Now, from the day Moshe Rabbeinu was born, they weren't there more than 80 years. Like it says, Moshe ben Shemainim Shana b'Dar Mel Parai, and that was the year that they left. Comes out from when they came down until Moshe was born was 130 years. And when Amram took back Yocheved, the Gemara is going to tell us later on, she was really pregnant with Moshe. So she was 130 years old when they were getting remarried. For Karel Abbas, and she'd been called a daughter, because as the Gemara says, in Perek Yesh Noichlin, he says, Zu Yecheved. What's Zu Yecheved? So when you go through the specifics of those Yidden who came down to Mitzrayim, you're going to find that the number only comes out to 69. But yet the Pasuk says, Haboy Mitzrayim Ashivim, that the amount of Jews that came down to Bnei Yaakov that came down was 70. So he says that Yecheved was the one that rounded out the number to 70 because she was born when they were coming into the city. Because the conception was on the journey, and she was born between the walls when they were coming into Mitzrayim. Like it says in the pasuk that she was born to Levi Mitzrayim. What do you mean born? The birth was in Mitzrayim, but the conception was not in Mitzrayim. So the question is, why are you calling her Bas if she was 130 years old? So Rabbi Yehuda says because it developed in her signs of puberty, of youthfulness. She came back to her days when she was like a little girl, as getting her period, and the flushed face and her creases being flattened out. So therefore, that's why she's called Bas Levi. Now, then it says later, it says Vatara Isha Vatelid Bain, that the woman conceived and she gave birth to a son. Says the Gemara, the Gemara is going to tell us shortly that she was already pregnant for 3 months before Amram went and remarried Yocheved. So why is it saying that after he took her back, then she conceived? So Amar Yehuda Bar Zavina, he says, you're right. The whole purpose of why it's talking about conception over here is for a drasha. She really was pregnant already. But it's just to be makish leidasal rasa. It's coming to compare her birth to her conception. Just like when a woman conceives, it's without pain. It's a very painless procedure. So the birth was without pain. From here we learn so the righteous women that they were not in the curse of Chava in her decree, which was the document of the decrees that she was cursed that she's going to have these childbirth pains and of the pregnancy. The Nashim Tzidkanias don't have that. They have that they don't have pain during their birth, and that's why it's comparing it to the pregnancy. Now the pasuk says that when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, it says V'techa Isai ki toivu. She saw that he's good. So Tanya will learn the brayso. Rabbi says because Toiv Shemai, that's his name. His name was Toiv. Rabbi Yehuda says no, Toiv Yoshemai. And for some people, when they can't name Moshe, they'll name like a name Tovia. That was his name. And the Chemiyam says the reason why it was called Toiv was Hagan LaNavias. She saw with Ruach HaKodesh that he's going to end up being appropriate for prophecy, and therefore she saw that he's good. Some say no, because Neil Kishumal, he was born circumcised. That's what means that she saw that he was good. The sages say, Moshe, at the time when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the whole house filled up with light. Because as we have a that she saw that he's good. Says over there in the beginning of Bereshit, God saw that the light that is good. So just like over there, good means light. Here also the house filled up with light. Now the pasuk tells us that she hid him for a period of 3 months. That's the amount of time she was able to hide him, because the Egyptians did not go after the Sikh in their house and to anyone only after 9 months from when they know that they were intimate. Now, as the Gemara tells us, because the Leimonu Mitzrayim or Mitzrim Elam Shoda Hadra, they only counted from when they got remarried. They know, they looked in their books that they got married, and we're going to come back 9 months later to see if there's any babies. Now the thing is, but she was already pregnant 3 months before. They didn't realize that she was already pregnant. Now the pasuk then says, but then after that time, she wasn't able to hide him anymore. Says the Gemara, Amai. Why? Because if he was hidden in the private area, like it says about Titzpaneu, what she should be afraid from? Titzpanei b'tezel. Let her hide, as many people in other times in Jewish history had to hide. Why couldn't she hide the baby? So the Gemara says a terrible thing that the Egyptians would do. Anywhere where the Egyptians would hear that a baby was born, so mamti yinuka hasam, they would bring another baby over there. They would have the baby cry, and the way it happens is that when one baby cries, the other baby hears also cries. So the Egyptians would bring a baby to cry, and then they would find where the baby was being hid. Like it says a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, that a Baskol says to the waters of the sea, grab for us these fox and these small ones, etc., that the pasuk says that destroyed the vineyard, which refers to Knesset Yisrael, when they were still a small little fruit. That's the babies. That's what the Egyptians tried doing to the Jewish babies, and that's how they were able to find them. Now it says that she couldn't hide him anymore again, like we just said. So she took for him a wicker box. It says the Gemara, why specifically wicker? So from here we see from the righteous that their money is more precious to them than their own bodies, and therefore she took wicker, which is very cheap, even though his body would have been more protected. Let's say it was made out of wood, which is harder and stronger. But by tzaddikim, they're more concerned about their money than their body. Why? Why are they so into their money? Because they don't stretch out their hands for anything that's stolen funds, and therefore $1 is $1, $10 is $10. It means something because they don't take what's not theirs, and therefore they're going to scrimp, even when it means compromising a little bit on the safety of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, Shmuel ben Nachmani says that no, the reason why she took wicker was because davar rach, actually something that's soft, is actually he's more protected more than anything else, because it actually could withstand a hard element and a soft element, because whatever's hard, when the water pushes on it very strong, so it actually could break. But something that's very light, actually it will get pushed around, but it'll be flexible, and therefore that's why she actually specifically chose wicker versus a hard thing like a wooden box. Now the pasuk tells us that v'tachmara b'chemer v'zafis, that she smeared it with clay and with tar. So we'll learn the brayso that chemer mibifnim, the clay was on the inside, v'zafis mibachutz, and the tar was on the outside. Why? So that righteous child of her should not smell a bad smell of the tar. Now the pasuk v'tasam ba'asayel, she placed the baby inside. V'tasam ba'asuf, and she put him in the suf. What's the suf? So Rabbi Elazar, he says Yam Suf. That's the Yam Suf that we know, that famous body of water by Egypt. Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says no. It's a Ketin Tamid Beis. It's Agam. It's a marsh that have the willow branches and these thin reeds growing over there. Like it says the pasuk in Yeshaya, Kana, which are the reeds, V'suf, which is the thin willows, kamelu, they wither. You just see that suf could also mean not just the yam suf, but also could mean in general a marsh. So that's the different opinions regarding where was Moshe Rabbeinu put in as a baby. Then it says, then the daughter of Pari went down to bathe herself by the river. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, Malamed comes to teach us, she went to wash herself off from the filth of her father, which means to immerse herself for the purposes of conversion to become a giyeres. Like it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, that the one who repents and cleanses himself from sin is called bathed, washed. Like the pasuk says, Imrachatz Hashem esoyes b'nois sin v'goyim. Hashem is going to wash off the filth of the daughters of sin, etc. Meaning that it's going to purify them. So you see that's the term of rechitza. Now the pasuk says over there, "B'nagreseh holches v'goyim," that her maidens were going along with the basia, with the daughter of the king. Now what's holches? So Omar Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ein halichas du eloshen misa." This going is actually a terminology of death, as we're going to explain, because they were protesting against her not to save the tzaddik, the baby Moshe. So it says in Bereshis, behold, I'm going to go to die. So you see, halicha can mean dying. Now the pasuk says, she saw the box in the river. Now it tells us the Gemara, and the Gemara says, Ba'as, Latzuli Moshe. Once they saw that she wanted to save this baby Moshe, Amrullah, they said to her, Givertenu, our mistress, the custom of the world is when the flesh and blood king makes a decree. If the whole world doesn't keep it, but at least his sons and his family members, they keep it. And you're going to violate your father's decree that here's a Jewish baby thrown into the river and you're going to save the baby? So Gabriel the Malach came and smashed him into the ground and he killed him. Now the pasuk says, Vatishlach es amasa v'tikecha. Famous drasha that she sent her amma and she took the baby. So what does this mean, amasa? Rabbi Yehuda v'Reb Nechemia. Chadam one says it means yada, her hand. Chadam one says it's shivchasa, her maidservant. So it says the Gemara Mandam yada, the one who says it was her hand because the chsiv amasa, it says her amma, and it doesn't say nareseha. The pasuk had mentioned that it was nareseha. Why wouldn't it say that she sent her nara? Obviously, it's referring to her hand. Mandam shivchasa, the one that says that it was her maidservant, like chsiv yada. Why didn't it say she sent it her hand? Why does it say amasa? That would be like a amma, like when amma avriya, that amma means a maidservant. Now says the Gemara, according to one that says it was a maidservant, but Amrat, you just said, Gabriel the Gabriel the Malach came and smashed them into the ground and killed them. Says Gemara, he had the shayla, but he left over one maidservant because the love orcha the basmalka make him l'chudah. It's not appropriate for the princess to be by herself, therefore he left over one of them. Now the one that says that amasa, which the amma could also mean a reference to one's hand, so why lichtav yada? It should say her hand, because what's this? What is this reference? Where do we see from amasa that it's because as Rashi elsewhere explains in Shemais that according to the diktuk of Lashon HaKodesh, so it should have made amasa as a mem dogush if you were saying if we're saying the hand. So why didn't you just say hand? Says Gemara, and it's actually coming to teach us something. The shtarv ishtarvuve, where the word amasa is also a reference to the word of amma, that many ammas did her hand stretch out. That's why it didn't say yada, because even if it was yada, it really should have stressed it on the mem. Here, when it's saying amasa, it wants to say a drush, because the amamar, like the Gemara says elsewhere regarding the golden scepter of Achashverosh in Mesechtas Megillah, that it says it's stretched out, that it should reach Esther. The Gemara tells us that you find the same thing regarding the arm of the daughter of Parai, and that's what it's referring to. That's why it doesn't say yada, because you want to say this drush of amos, that is stretched out many amos. So do you find by the teeth of the wicked, referring to Igmel Chabash, as the Gemara says in Brachas, in the beginning of Perikaraya, the Chesivik says the pasuk in Tilim, the teeth of the wicked you break. So Amar Shlakish, he says, I'll take you shibarta, don't read it, that you break elesherivavta, rather that a term of ishtarvuve, that you extend. And again, that's the same drasha that we wanted to say over here, that her hand stretched out very long, and that's how I was able to reach the baby. Now, then subsequently the pasuk says that vatiftach, she opened up the box, vatirehu, and she saw him. Now, it says es hayeled, the baby. So it says the Gemara, it should say, Vatera es hayeled, Vatirehu es hayeled. So Amar B'Yisib says, because Sharasa Shchinim, it's referring to actually seeing something else. When it says he saw him, it actually refers to the divine presence. And es could be read like im. So Vatirehu, she saw him, the Shechina, es hayeled, with the child. There was the Shechina with baby Moshe in the water. Now the pasuk says, behold, the youth was crying. It says the Gemara, Karel hayeled v'karel nar. You're calling him a yeled, which is a baby, and then you're calling him a youth, which sounds like he's an adult, which is such a beautiful shot in the Baal Turim there, in that pasuk. He says, because the yellow that was crying was actually Aaron. His brother was crying there on the side. But the Gemara asks as a question, it sounds like it was on baby Moshe. So Tanu Linda Brisa, who yelled? He was a baby, but his voice was like a young boy. That's the Rabbi Yehuda. So Amalei Rabbi Nechemia says to him, if that's the case, you make Moshe Rabbeinu into a blemished person because he's a Levi, and a Levi becomes invalidated with his voice if it's not appropriate. And here a baby shouldn't be sounding like a young boy. Ella rather he says something else. Malamed comes to teach us that his mother made for him chupas na'urim beteva, a type of like a wedding canopy of the youth in his box, because Amr Shemaloi Eskel Chupase. This would be like a real mother type of thing that maybe I'm not going to merit to come. I'm not going to see him by his chasna. I'm not going to ever come. This little baby that I had. So she made like a chupas na'urim, like a youthful type of a chuppah. That's why that's the kol hanar, but it doesn't really refer to his voice. Now the Gemara says, the pasuk says Vatachma that she had compassion on him. But she said Miyalde Ivrim Zeh, that this baby is from the Jewish women. Says the Gemara, but no yada, how'd she know that this baby is from the Jewish mothers? So she thought that he was circumcised, and therefore she knew that it was a Jewish baby. Now when it says in the pasuk Zeh, it says Miyalde Ivrim Zeh. What's Zeh? So Omer Rabbi Yochanan says Malamash Nisnaba Shloimi Daita. It teaches us that she prophesies without realizing it. That Zeh Neifel, that this one's going to fall into the water, and no other baby is going to fall into the river anymore, because that day they ended up nullifying the decree. And that's behind Omer Belazis. This is Maidach. It wasn't in the pasuk in Yeshaya that when they're going to tell you, the idol worshippers, Dirshu, go and seek out like us, Elo Oivos into this type of sorcery. Hamitzaftzavim b'mahagim. Now, what does that mean? So these are references of prophecy that in a degrading way, which is that they prattle like cranes and they just talk like doves. But says the Gemara, because seifim ve'in yodim seifim, they see but they don't know what they see. That's mitzavtzafim. And mahagim, they talk ve'in yodim mahagim, they don't even know what they're saying. Meaning they say out words from their throat, but they don't know what they're saying. That's the way of the astrologers, where they only see like a sign, but they don't know the interpretation of it. So as the Gemara explains, the astrologers of Pari, they saw that the savior of the Jewish people is going to be harmed, he's going to get punished in the water. Now, Rashi tells us that this teaching is not Rabbi Lazar who is saying this, because the pasuk is not going on the Egyptians, it's the Gemara who is saying it. And this is going on what we said before, that ve'in achar neifel, that no other baby is going to be thrown into the water anymore. So that's like Rabbi Lazar that says that they don't know what they're saying, so therefore the Egyptians saw, but they didn't know what they saw. Amdu v'gazu, so they got up and they made a decree that kol ben hayilot hayar tishluchu. So they made a decree. Okay, we know that the savior of the Jewish people is going to be harmed with the water. So they said any baby has to be thrown into the river. Even the Shidula Moshe, once they saw that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the water, they said we don't see anymore this sign in our astrology. Because as long as Moshe was in the river, so there's no greater punishment than this, and therefore the simon of that was not there anymore. So they nullified their decrees, and therefore no more Jewish babies had to be thrown into the river. But they didn't know that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to end up being harmed, yes, by the water, but by the waters of the dispute of the rock, that he hit it instead of talking to it. Behind them, Reb Chanina says, those are the waters of dispute that they disputed over. What's Hema? Says the Gemara, that's the what the astrologers of Paris saw, and they made a mistake. And behind the common Moshe, and this is what Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Jewish people in Bamidbar, 600,000 legs, etc., which, as Rashi translates, that Ragli means like because of me. Like we find the pasuk in Bereshit, Vayivarach Hashem Oischel L'Ragli, that means because of you, because of me. So again, that he was trying to say, Moshe was telling the Jewish people, B'shvili nitzaltem kulchem, because of me, you were all saved, because the Egyptians nullified the decree when I was thrown into the water. Now, another interpretation, what does Zeh mean? When it says that, Miyad Ivrim Zeh, he says, that day that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the river, Esrim Be'echad Ben Nisan, it was the 21st of Nisan. So Amalach Hashal from the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom asked the world, Misha Asad Lai Meshira Aliyam B'Yom Zeh, the one who's going to end up saying Shira by the sea on this day, which was Shvi Shal Pesach, meaning it wasn't yet, but it was the 21st of Nisan, Yilka B'Yom Zeh, he's going to get punished on this day, because the Shiras Hayam was on the 21st of Nisan, like we learned in the Bryce and Seder Olam, that they went from Ramses to Sukkot, and Sukkot to Esam to Piachiris, that's 3 days. And the fourth day, on the fifth day and the sixth day, the Egyptians chased after them. And the beginning of the seventh day, they went into the sea, like it says, Vayaras al-Aila, and in the morning of the seventh day, they said Shira, that was the seventh day, and that's the last day of the Yom Tov of Pesach. So that's what Zeh is. Zeh is like, how could this be? That on this day, he's going to get punished. Another interpretation, it says, actually, that day, Shisha B'Sivan Hayah. It was actually the 6th of Sivan. Asked the world, that's the day of Kabbalah Satera, that they're going to end up, he's going to receive the Torah on that day. Yilka B'Yom Zeh is going to get punished on this day. So again, we have two very big dates. When was it that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the water? Either the day of Kriyas Yamsuf or the day of Kabbalah Satera. So the Gemara wonders, says, wait a second. We understand according to the one that says B'Shish B'Sivan, that it was the 6th of Sivan. So it says the Gemara Mishkachas Lo Gimel Yarchi. So I understand you could have the 3 months, because we said in the pasuk, as we mentioned before in the Aleph, that for 3 months his mother hid him, and then she couldn't hide him anymore. Then she put him in the water. Oh, that makes sense, because Amamar, like the master says, B'Shiva Ba'adar Meiz, B'Shiva Ba'adar Noel Moshe. We know the 7th of Adar is a big day. That's the day that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, and it was also the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was born. As the Gemara in the first parak Kedushin of Lamachazim and Alf learns out from Sukkim, like it says, "V'yivku b'nei Yisrael as Moshe v'Arvis Moav shloishim yom," that they mourned after him for a period of 30 days. And it says, "Moshe avdi meis v'atu kum avar," now go over the Yarden. And it says, "Ki b'oich shloishim yom at Moav Yarden," and another 3 days you're going to pass over the Yarden. And it says, "V'am olam Yarden," and the 10th of the first month of the 10th of Nisan. So if you go back 3 days, which they waited 3 days, and 30 days of mourning, 33 days, comes out that on the 7th of Adar is when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. Now, how do we know that he was born on the 7th of Adar? Because it says, what does it mean, hayayim? I mean, today is when I'm exactly filled up my years, my birthday. That's when he passed away. Okay, so he's born on the 7th of Adar. So we understand, as we see on this chart, very simply, so if you go from the 7th of Adar until the 6th of Sivan, great. That's Tlasayarchi. Those are the 3 months that when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, until when he was thrown in on the day of Kabbalah Satera, was when he was thrown into the water. But according to one that says that he was born, that he was in the water in the 21st of Nisan, how could you have 3 months from the 7th of Adar till the 21st of Nisan? Says the Gemara, so that year was an Iber year, it was extra Adar. Okay, so it's like the Gemara explains. If you take Ruba Shal Rishon, the most of the first month, because all you're missing from Adar Rishon was just 7 days. And Veruba Shel Achron, if you take the majority of the last month, meaning of Nisan, which you have most of the days over there, that also, and V'emtzai Shama and a complete Adar Sheni, that's going to be the 3 months that his mother hid him. Now, afterwards it says, V'atoimer achois el Bas Pari, that his sister said to Bas Pari, who was holding this baby, she said, should I go and call for you a nursing woman from the Jewish women? So the Gemara says, why was she telling her from the Jewish women? Obviously, it sounds like that the baby didn't want, or Basi didn't want, the Egyptian women. Says the Gemara, yeah, Malamed comes to teach us that she took this baby, Moshe, to all the Egyptian wet nurses, and he didn't want to nurse. Because Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Pesh Asa Dabe Mashchin, the mouth that's going to end up speaking with the divine presence, Yinik Davar Tameh, should nurse impure thing, because this Egyptian woman who ate non-kosher, and the child tastes in the milk whatever the woman tastes. Like the Gemara says in Yuma Davayin Hey. So whatever the mother eats, the baby's nursing. So behind the that means a pasuk in Yeshaya. Esmi Yoredeya B'Gomer. Who's going to instruct regarding the knowledge, and who's going to give understanding of the teachings? Meaning, Lemi Yeredeyam, to whom is HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to teach the Torah? Ulemi Yam and Shmuel, and who's going to understand the teachings? That's what the pasuk says over there. Legemule Mechalav, those who are removed from the milk. Ulatika Mishlam, and those who take their mouth off from the breast. Meaning, someone that separates himself from nursing, from non-kosher milk, and from impure breast, that's the one who's going to be able to mekabel the Torah. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. Now afterwards, the pasuk says that V'toimer lo bas Parai, and the daughter of Parai said to her, Leichi v'goimer, go ahead and then go. And then the young girl went and she called the mother of the baby. So what's this that it says there in the pasuk V'telech ha'alma? It's going on v'goimer on the next words in the pasuk that the young girl went. So Amar Chalaza said Malamet shaholcha bezrizis ka'alma. This teaches that she went so quickly with alacrity like an alma, meaning that the word alam means strong. She went with all her energy, because like we find the pasuk in Devarim, it says chazak va'ametz. The targum is takif va'alam. So she went like someone with all their strength. Shmuel ben Nachmani says ha'alma actually refers to shalimes devareha, that she actually, from the word of that a person lo yitzuchelis alim. Lama means to be hidden. That she didn't say that she's his sister and that she's going to bring the mother. That's what it means that she went as calling her the Alma, even though it generally translates as the young girl. Now afterwards it says V'temela bas Parai, that the daughter of Parai said to her, Hey lichi es hayelad hazeh. She said to Yocheved when Miriam brought her, says here, take this young child. So Amar B'cham B'chanina says Misnaba Basya. The Bas Parai was saying a prophecy, but in the Yades Mamasnaba, she doesn't let me know what she was prophesizing. When he said, Hey lichi, here, take him, it was a compound word, Hashalichi. Here, this is yours. She's giving the baby back to who's really the mother. Now, the pasuk says, and she tells her, and I'll pay you the wages for nursing this baby. So Rabbi Shloimy says, Lo yidayin letzadikim, it's not enough for the righteous. Shemachzir lehen abidasim, that their lost object is given back to them. Rather, they even get paid for their own Aveda that's being given back to them. Thank you to any time for hosting us. Afreil Chen Kashan Pesach.